Whoa, 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 court is back in session and GotBot presiding. And I think it's time that everybody just calm down a little bit and don't throw a tantrum. See what I did there? This, of course, is the Unique Toys War Bison, also known as Savagebull. And as we continue on with our look at offerings of the character of Predaking in 2018, we're going to visit this guy next. He, of course, is a third-party representation of the Predaking character known as Tantrum. And he is one of the most interesting of cases because, unlike others that we've looked at thus far, this guy actually has not lost his value. You see, he was originally released at about 85 bucks. And typically, he still tends to go for about 60 US. I have seen him once as cheap as 40 US. But it's still a bit of a hefty price tag when you consider that he's still about a deluxe class figure. So why has this guy retained his value? What's so special about this dude? Anything? Nothing? Well, we're going to get into all of that in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you here. As always, I am your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. Please, like, comment, share, of course. And naturally, I'm going to ask you guys to show some love, show some support. Hit that subscribe button. A couple of shout outs I want to give here to Thomas, to the gang at Vanier, and to Tsunami United. Check out what they're doing on their channel. Naturally, check me out everywhere. Have a look at Machinery Man and the Everything Factor. Spend some time on the channel, see what it is that catches your interest, and we get to this guy. Now, like I said, we have been sort of making our way through the combiner that was released by Unique Toys known as Warlord. Of course, it is a third-party version of Predaking, and this is one of the members. He is one of the legs. And when we've looked at other ones, I've given them, so far, pretty decent scores. Not because of when they were first released, but because in this year, 2018, when we look at them again, as I've stated before, we've got a lot of changes with markets and tastes and everything else, but this guy hasn't really undergone the same sort of transformation, pardon the pun, as the other ones. And why might that be? Well, he's no larger, although it could be argued that there was more plastic used for this guy because he does have a few things that we'll look at in just a little bit. I don't really think he has more paint, though that's possible. And you'll possibly notice the little Decepticon logo on his chest. That's something that I added. It was not obviously there in the beginning. I have another theory, though, about why he's retained his value. And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. As a matter of fact, let's stop wasting time. Let's go over to the table, have a look at this guy, and then we'll come back here to clue things up. Now, I'm only going on forward with this if you stay calm. Okay, I've kind of ridden that joke into the ground. This, of course, is the Unique Toys UT-W03 War Bison, also known as Savagebull. And, of course, this guy does come with a box, so we're going to take him out of it just for a few moments and focus on this for a second. We have kind of glorious artwork over here. He looks really good. Nothing really on this side, nothing much to talk about over here, other than, again, kind of getting a shout out down here to the Warhawk. Why, I don't know. Talking about the articulation in the foot. On the back, of course, we have the same sort of product shots as the other boxes. We have Again, a note that he is super flexible, and of course we have that glorious bio that says Savagebull is never a reasonable guy. Kind of matches for the character of Tantrum. It seems that anger is the only emotion he has, and he always dashes around madly. Not sure madly's a word, maybe. To give vent to his fury, instead of venting his fury. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Which makes others thinking there is something wrong with his circuitry. He has amazingly good stamina and thick armor and can store surplus fuel to supply his teammates. He makes mistakes constantly for his lack of intelligence. So he's a good fighter, but not the smartest guy around. And if you'll indulge me a second with his ever-popular collector card, we will first take a look at the art on the front. Again, I think this is on possibly some sort of a plastic. It's definitely not just cardstock. However, the stats on the back, of course, show what the bio says, that this guy has very high numbers when it comes to being in the battlefield, but not so high when it comes to brain power. Let's take a look at the accessories that accompany him. One of which is his instruction manual. It's printed on some sort of a glossy paper. They're all right, but again, we have this comic in there that's written. It's not exactly engaging. It doesn't hold my interest for the 2 pages that it exists on. And the way that the pictures for the instructions were printed, I don't know, it's like they're fuzzy. It's like the printing press got smudged or moved or some such thing. They're not crisp, at least not on the first couple of pages. Still, it kind of doesn't matter because you can sort of figure the guy out if you're patient and careful with him. And here we have another beautiful sword molded mostly in black and gold. All of these are slightly unique, like they're similar, but they're slightly unique. In this case, we have a beautiful red adorning the handle. It looks good, just like the other ones do. Again, no more, no less. And of course, we have this glorious foot piece. We've seen this before, so I won't waste too much time, but the heel moves, a ratchet all the way up for nice kind of posability with the front of the foot. The toes, they can angle down, though I'm not really sure why. And just like before, we have little buttons on the bottom that turn on LEDs inside. Not a feature I would use, but still nice that it is included. Oh, and again, we do have an ankle tilt. Another nice feature. On to the guy at hand. Savagebull, meet the nice people meet Savagebull, who is about the same size as the Transformers Power of the Primes Deluxe Class Slug, who I looked at recently, and the custom paintwork that I did on him in episode 343. And here he is, taking his rightful place at center stage. Now, before I go on with anything, I just want to point out that yes, indeed, he does hold his sword in his hand just fine, and it looks good. I totally dig this. But naturally, it's not the whole story, now is it? We're going to grade this guy as we always do with paint apps, posability, playability, and of course transformation. Normally I am a stickler for sticking to the animation, which is part of the reason why I do so many customs that I've showcased ever so often, including a recent countdown of some of my favorite projects. But I don't think we can do that here. As I've mentioned before, there was a lot of animation variety, we'll say, in Season 3 of the original series, where these guys were naturally featured most prominently. If we're talking about an on-screen version of this character, his chest did not have the silver. By the way, that Decepticon symbol was added by me. Naturally, it was not there all along. But again, as I was saying, we don't have silver in the chest, we just have red. The orange is pretty accurate, and the red feet is, again, quite accurate. As are the black thighs. We do not have a black midriff typically in the animation. And his face would be that peculiar green. And his lower legs would be gray. I get it. You know, this isn't correct based on that, but I've said since day one that we need to kind of look at these guys really more in terms of the original toys. And for that, this guy is pretty amazing. Virtually everything is correct. Again, the black on the midriff should probably be orange, but even the molded and detailing on the forearms is the same as what it was on the original. The kind of side pieces here on the original would have been black. They're orange here, if I'm not mistaken. Overall, this is most assuredly an excellent visual representation of Tantrum. It's pretty stellar. I'm going to give his paint apps an overall score of 9. They're really close, really good. And for the faults that exist, I really can't mark them down for. But again, that's still not the whole story, because remember, we're not looking at this guy quite as typically as we did with the other ones. The other ones, I gave them kind of some extra free reign license because we had seen a significant market change with them. We haven't seen that with this guy. A little bit, yes, but not as much as the others. So let's get into his articulation. First, he's a fine leg when we get there, and his Bison bull mode is pretty effective overall with more articulation than you might think. But what about here? Well, we have a head that can go left and right. It cannot look up. Well, it can't look up, but I guess because of transformation, it can kind of look down. We have movement on these shoulder flaps. We have arms that can go forward and back, out to the side. We have a bicep swivel. We have an elbow over 90 degrees, and technically I guess you could even say we have wrist rotation. It's sort of because of transformation, but it is there, I suppose. He also has legs hanging out on the back of his arms. A lot of people complain about this, but if you orient them properly, they're really not obtrusive, and his lower arm can move absolutely freely without these going with it. That being said, the ball joints on the arms are looser than I would like, especially this one over here. It's not bad, but it's a little looser than I would like. You know, and it's not everywhere. It just depends on where the ball joint is. Like right there, right in this position, it's pretty loose, but when it's down like this, it's not. It's something was slightly off there. We have a waist. And an uncomfortable squeaky ratchet. We have legs going forward that far, back that far, a nice thigh swivel, a nice deep knee. We have toe tilt. The legs can do full splits, and to help accommodate that, we even have little flaps on the side. They can also open up. He has mostly everything that you could want. I have to score it at about an 8. By rights, if the ball joints were a little bit more secure feeling for his shoulders, I would be happier. But it's nice that, you know, they've kind of kept the look of the guy with these shoulder pieces and these hip skirts, yet allowed all of them to move out of the way to give maximum range of articulation. Right now he's getting an 8.5. Let's move on and have a look at his conversion scheme, and for that we're going to do as we've done with the other ones, go into his animal mode and then into his limb mode. So, where do we begin with the guy? Well, his head. We just turn it around like that. Unfortunately, his face will be visible on the bottom. That's the price of doing business, folks. You put up the toes, and just like with kind of the other version that we use here of this mold. I guess this guy is a remold, I suppose. We take the leg out of the calf and we lift off slightly this piece on the side. Again, it's on a ball joint. It might pop off, but it pops right back on, no problem. We do the same over here. We bring the leg out on its ball joint. We lift that off just a little bit. Straighten down the leg. And over here, straighten down the leg. You may want, you'll notice there's a ball joint in right here. You may want to swivel that so that his knee kind of bends back. In doing so, that also means you're going to want to swing the lower leg. So now, he does have a knee bend in the correct direction. Oh, and I just popped that off. Oh, gracious me. Alright, so I put that back on the ball joint. I have the knees in the right position now. The opening for the ball joint should be facing toward the back, and that lower leg section should be oriented such that the gold detailing is on the outside. Now he has a nice knee bend back. By the way, he also has movement in his feet, which I think is unnecessary, but welcome. The other use of this mold, the other leg of this guy, also has that same foot movement. I did not mention it before. At this point, you come to the back and take out his little tail and you put the legs together and collapse them. They just slide up. Not the smoothest either, but they're up there. Now, we got to deal with those shoulders. I don't like these. I'm not a fan of how the shoulders were done here. I'm just really not. So let me explain why. First, we straighten the shoulder and the front leg down. We do the same, of course, on the other side. We straighten the shoulder and the front leg down. I think that this is definitely interesting, but it can be frustrating. Now, at this point originally I said, okay, I guess that's it, but it's not. And when I looked at the pictures of the guy, I realized this isn't quite right. But I could not put my finger on why. Here's why, and here's what is not explained well in the instructions. You need to open up that silver piece. And when you open up this silver piece, the fist moves as does the kind of outside of the forearm. Then the forearm inside is a whole separate piece. And you need to turn it without turning the ball joint that the elbow is on. And then this comes up around the side. And you don't see any of the black from his arm there, just silver. This is loosey-goosey. You can see it there kind of falling around. That's what I was talking about earlier when I said I really wish that that tolerance had been better. Over here, we open it up, and then you really kind of got to hold on in by the elbow, and then shift the entire forearm around and close it back up and over. It is not fun. I don't like it, but in the end, boom, there you go. You have yourself a bull, and it's a pretty effective bull. It stands well, even with the loose shoulder ball joints. He stands great. Just like the other leg, we have a couple of slots back here. Now, you can fold the tail in. And you can again take the foot piece, and using the two rectangular slots on the back, you can put this foot piece on over. And there you go. If you're not clear where this peg's on, basically his feet are red. When you fold his feet in, on the back of the heel you have a little red rectangular tab. That's what goes into this heel section that folds down. And while I have mentioned with the foot that heel does fold down, I think the only reason for it is so it can be incorporated here. It's just a little kind of extra piece of articulation that wasn't really necessary, but nice nonetheless, because it's an attempt to try and integrate this piece into the figure, which is admittedly a difficult thing to do with a foot that big. Speaking of feet, let's get into his limb mode. So first and foremost, we need to remove the foot that was on his back. By the way, I didn't really waste much time going through the articulation here because the head goes left and right. The legs all have knees and little foot pieces that move. You know, these ones can go slightly out to the side. These ones can do anything the shoulders can do. It's great articulation. Okay, so this is easy. This is easy. We squeeze in these pieces on the side. We take the legs and turn them at the ball joint, and then turn them again so that they fit up into the calf. Same thing over here, turn it at the ball joint, turn it at the calf and bring it up, or turn it at the lower leg and then bring it up into the calf. Give that kind of a final squeeze up right there. Okay, then for these sections here, the shoulders are on ball joints and the ball joints angle back. When the ball joints go angle back, there's a little rectangular slot here and a tab on the silver of the forearm there. The idea is when you angle this back, it goes into that tab. The tab goes into that slot. It kind of works. If you want to fiddle with it more than what I'm doing here now, you'll get it slotted in there. Here's the problem. The entire fist and forearm is painted silver. And the more times you transform this guy, and the more times you handle these sections, and the more times that you try to peg them in on the side, the more often you're going to scrape that paint away, undoubtedly. So you want to be very careful with that. In the end, we have two pegs on the foot and they go up into the bottom of this guy, and we have, bring the head out, turn it around. His combiner peg is down flat here. I always leave it out like this because it is really hard to get out. Of course, you would ratchet this up straight in order for it to slot up to become a knee. But in essence, this is our other leg to our huge gestalt, or gestalt. People pronounce that word differently. Same sort of warning as I gave when we looked at the other leg. If you slide the lower sections all the way up so that they're completely flush with the hips, you're gonna have an issue because these lower legs tab in so secure that it's almost too secure, and it's scary to kind of get them back out. I was petrified that I would break something. Speaking of breaking something, here's my take on why I think this guy's retained his value. Those pegs on the shoulders worry me. It's not so much that they're thin or that I have stress marks, but they're a bit loose, and I wonder how their longevity lasts over time. I suspect, at least at this point, that if any member of this team is prone to breakage, it's going to be this guy. If anybody needs to be replaced, it's going to be this guy. And because of that demand, I think his price point has stayed relatively high. Sadly, I don't think that's the best reason for it to stay up there. Do you? And once again, here we are with him now as a leg. Of course, as you already know, he suffers the same sort of issue where if you push the thigh or the lower legs all the way up as they should be, then the thighs will be locked into position so tightly that it becomes a very scary thing to try and remove them if you want to put him back in his individual robot mode. I would like to say that he's retained his value because he's that good, but I can't. There has been scraping on the paint on the arms, and those shoulders are far looser than I would like. My concern is this, that he's retained his value because, well, he's actually the most fragile. Perhaps he's the one most prone to breaking and needing to be replaced. Of course, that would seem like he's popular because more of him sell. But is that really an accurate representation if the reason they're selling is because he's not quite up to snuff with the others? It's not that he's bad. You know what I thought of this guy by now. But he's just not quite as strong as the others we've looked at so far. Anyway, things just keep getting more and more interesting as we continue to look at the rest of this combiner, representing one of those famed characters that we all know and love. Let me know what you think of this guy and what your experience has been. You know I love to hear from you. Again, I'm going to say please hit that subscribe button, show some support, show some love, get involved in the community, and of course let me know what you think of this guy. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for giving me some of your very valuable time, and I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.